to the ground. We were searching all over to figure out if there is something, what is the extent of this issue? What is the extent of this gap? We stumbled upon a presentation by Mr. Fanish Murthy. It was presented by him somewhere. It's actually a survey by Franklin Covey's organization. And it's pretty interesting for two things. Point number one, only 50% roughly, rather less than 50%, know the goals of the organization. And then how they are trained, how they are enabled, and finally the last bullet is pretty interesting. Only 27% roughly translate to their work team goals. I think this is exactly what we are talking about. We have lost the first battle by possibly, we may communicate, not simply, not in simple ways, very simplistically we communicate, we lose the first half, and then in our failure to make it operationalized, we possibly lose another half, and we are in trouble. How do we bridge it? How is the perception among levels? There's a top guy who says, look, we need to be the benchmark, we need to be the partner of choice, we need to be the de facto standard for the client, and all big words. We need to have our revenues, margins go higher and higher. It comes to the next level, a business head or a vertical head or whatever in your organization may be. This guy looks at it, he says, I don't want to be questioned, somewhere my operations have to go fine. I want to ensure all the guys are utilized well, we need to manage the show. It comes to the project manager level, he knows very sure, if he doesn't satisfy his boss, thinks he or she is in trouble. So what do? They see to that minimal SLAs are met, so the client doesn't escalate, and things go smooth, and things are pretty straightforward there. And then there's a guy on the field who wants to at least make his CV really talk for him. When he goes for next interview, the question will be, how do you make a good quality code? I don't know whether we make it or not, but at least in the interviews, we don't fail to ask the question. Right? So this guy wants to try things and see he's relevant out there, wherever they are. It looks like the perception is totally chaotic. There is no connect between it. Let's put it downside up now. The guy who wants to do it different, if we can channel him to do best in class, that directly results in client excellence or excellence to the client. If that will translate directly into better CSATs, better repeat business, and that will make us a partner of choice to the client to see a direct alignment. How do we do it? How did we attempt it? Somewhere this came in between 1.3. We had a presentation as well in the morning. There are two words which really caught our eyes. We started reading this when somewhere last year, mid of last year, they started speaking about it. We took the draft copy of the model and started reading how this is changing, and we wanted to go for level 1.3 as much as possible, though we were not clear at that time. Two words, I think, which rang the bell in the mind. First was, in 1.2 it said, you align your initiatives, or rather derive your initiatives from the organization business goals. And it shifted, now you tell how you're going to achieve it. Now it was it looked like a one way, it was intended to be two ways possibly, and somewhere here, it was a direct connect. Now tell us how you're going to achieve it. The second interesting point was this, quantify the risk of not achieving it. The moment the word risk comes, then you are talking about empirical data to really connect these two. The word I am consciously using, empirical data, there are levels of connecting, there are statistical ways of connecting, you can check multiple things, but at least at the level, a proportion of the problem, if I don't meet this, what is the proportion that we may actually not meet the goal? How do we quantify it upfront? That was the challenge. And if we can do it with the business goal, definitely we are there. There are two ways we thought we can do it. One is directly take the goals like on-time delivery and all that and say this is our business goal. So obviously your PPMs, everything will meet that. The second option was, we knew for sure quality directly can impact two things. One, the profits, rather the margins. Number two, the CSAT. Directly they are correlated, right? Which of this, as an organization, we wanted to impact? The answer was straight, it was supposed to be CSAT. So we started working on this thing. In our group with quality, with me as part of a council called Organization Performance Improvement Council, there are a few other senior guys in the company. the delivery head who runs the CMI initiative, or rather who sponsors the initiative, and the senior business leaders. We form a council, and this council took this challenge and said, we have to connect from the business to delivery and then run initiatives which will directly impact back. So they did it in 3 steps. If you read our paper that possibly I think will come as a CD, you will see 4 steps there. Because of we wanted to manage time, we took only the key 3 steps. The step which is not reflected here is the initiatives we run. The first thing is the business analysis we did. Second thing is how did we translate that business analysis that we did to the operational goals. And the third thing is having done the operational goals and implemented to the ground, what's the result? So these are the 3 things we are going to present. The first step we are going to present is the business performance analysis. If you are one practice that being a slight, rather on a scale a smaller company, data was easier for us to collect. I know for sure how it is in a larger company. Getting data itself is a big challenge. For us it wasn't. What we did is a simple thing, which I think anywhere it can be done. We took CSAT as a parameter and connected both the upstream and the downstream. What's the upstream? The repeat business we get. The other things like a proposal conversion that we make in the organization, we connected it. And with the CSAT, we started connecting quality, productivity, and those kind of metrics. So we connected these things to see how and what is happening. The first interesting thing that we found was this. Wherever there is a repeat business, we run around some 85 to 88% repeat business across our clients. And last year we had 10% quarter-on-quarter growth consistently with 1 quarter because of a new client that we added. Now, in all this repeat business, we figured out wherever the clients had higher CSAT, the repeat business were empirically showing that it was much, much higher as a percentage. And we run around say 22% odd, 23% odd proposal conversions. And it is anyway, it's for sure, in a new client it will be lower, in an existing client it will be higher. And what we saw interestingly is that the places where we have higher CSAT empirically showed the proposal conversion is much higher. They were referencing us, right? So this showed not just that CSAT is important from a quality perspective, but also we could demonstrate that it is really important from a business perspective. Now, having chosen CSAT, this what you see in the slide is a simple bar chart analysis of relating one parameter in CSAT versus the outcome parameter in the CSAT. We have around 23 odd questions in a CSAT. And it happens at the end of the project with the typical the client contact and the business side as well. You can consider this more as an engagement level feedback as well. Now, what we did is, out of the 23 parameters, one parameter is the overall satisfaction. The rest of the parameters are the lead parameters, like how did we do technical solution? How did we deliver the how good was the requirements? And some of those questions. Now, is this a factor that is impacting the outcome? Is the goodness of this rating, is it impacting the goodness of the outcome? Is the lower rating of this parameter results in a lower rating of the outcome? That's a simple, just a correlation analysis. Now, what you see in the chart is 2 parameters, which is quality and on time, vis-a-vis the overall satisfaction. Whatever bars you see are simply a bar of overall satisfaction. Why 4 quadrants? Because the client might have rated both as not satisfied, or the client might have rated both as satisfied. If the client has rated both as satisfied, you see the bottom right corner or the top right corner both are dissatisfied. And you will see around a pretty clear correlation that there are factors directly impacting. Satisfaction of that leads to overall satisfaction, and dissatisfaction of that leads to overall dissatisfaction. We identified 4 parameters: quality, on time, requirements, and technical solution. Out of all the 20, these are the 4 which were really making a difference. That was our choice. Now, how do we know this CSAT can actually be tweaked? We know that quality is important. We know that technical solution is important, but how do we translate this into some measurable parameters? This is our rating scale of 1 to 5. What you see here is this is how we correlated this rating vis-a-vis our own data. We classified the project into 3 buckets. One we thought is really best in class. We did a good job, right? It is really like 0 defects or close to 0 defects or less than 2 defects of the overall life cycle of the project. The next is the worst case, greater than 5% defects. It was really, we messed it up. We had to call back, we had to do a lot of rework and all that. And in between, there's a huge chunk that we delivered. We had defects, some are managed, and all that. And you see that mid one is having high overlap with the rating, whereas the extremes are quite polarized. And a similar scene is what you see with on time as well. So what this helped us, it very clearly told us what is the proportion of projects which needs to be impacted. And so obviously, we call it as best in class, good, and to be improved. The good became our 2011 goals, and the best in class is the vision for the quality department. We could articulate to the field that the metrics guys you collect directly impact CSAT. It became a reality there. I personally believe IT industry in India, especially the software industry, the problem is quality, not really productivity. The reason why I'm saying, I pick it up especially from the learning from the Japanese industry. They kept doing things methodically, standardized things, and with quality as the focus, and as a byproduct, they achieved phenomenal productivity gains. I definitely feel, as an industry, quality is the main factor to focus, which will definitely get us both agility and all the factors that we are looking for. And another viewpoint, cost of quality is touted to be the indicator of quality, right? But that hasn't really been a measure that is really giving the field the engineering maturity indicator. We couldn't really use the cost of quality and say the project is good or bad. So we're looking for something else. What is that one factor which can tell us that is going to be the factor for engineering maturity? So we bumped upon this thing. It is interesting to note, as the maturity goes high, there is one factor which keeps coming down. If you carefully look, there is an identification there. The percentage of defects that comes in system testing phase is the indicator. That's when the guys start seeing the product holistically, or the testing team starts seeing. And this is where the most problems come, and this is where we really have this time to reflect back. So this, we thought, is the factor to impact as a measure of our engineering maturity. So that brought us to the goals. We have goal which is CSAT of 4 and 5, escape defects to be less than 2%, and which also is going to be coming from getting the pre-SIT, which is the prior to SIT, 85% of defects to be found. So with that introduction, or rather the first step is what I have covered, how we did the business analysis and got to the goals. I'll invite Smitha, who handles the OBI, or anchors the OBI function and drove this initiative to take to the technicalities and